We didn't have a term for that because we couldn't recognize it, couldn't develop a term for it in Africa. You've been here. In Africa, it's very hard to get away from life. While you've been filming, while you've been sitting by a fire in the evening and the morning, do you see how we cannot even talk at times because of the noise of all the birds, the monkeys, the baboons, the kudu barking, or whatever? There's so much life here, parts of India, South America, etc. So we couldn't conceive. How could you have and total rest? It was very difficult. And that's where me being forced into exile was so necessary for us to break through in understanding, because for the first time in my life, I was going to sea in a tiny little 16-foot aluminium boat, and I'd be 2 or 3 miles from land out at sea with my little 6-horse engine, turn it off because I'm fishing, and it would be total silence. I'd never heard that in my life. I didn't know that existed. I'd always lived with this. And then when I got to North America, met Jody, and we went into some of the wild areas in Utah, New Mexico, etc., I found the same thing. I might as well have been at sea. You can be 10 hours and not hear a single sound, not a bird, not an insect, and you're on land. I didn't know land existed like that. So then I realized, okay, what I'm seeing in places like that is total rest. What I'm seeing here is the same oxidation, same deterioration, but there are animals on the land, but it's not an intact population, because biologically, ecologically, nothing operates at the level of a population, but a community. And so what I was looking at here, I was beginning to realize is, okay, we don't have an intact biological community any longer, but we have a lot of animals on the land. And because it's not an intact community, and to make that simple for people, the most extreme example would be having buffalo and kudu and various animals on this land, zebra and wildebeest, but no large population of wild dogs, cheetahs, lions, pack hunting predators. So now the behavior is different. And so plants are being grazed, plants are being browsed, but the overall soil community is being rested because the animals are walking so gently. And that's where, having spent so much of my life tracking people and animals, it helped me to interpret that, because it's a behavior change. So I can tell you that in the war years here, if I'd been tracking you, I could guarantee you that as you walked across this ground, particularly in the dry season when you can see the plants more easily, I can guarantee that if you were fit, healthy, not hungry, not thirsty, not confused, you would not put your foot on a coarse plant. Now, if I was tracking you and I saw that you were putting your feet on coarse plants, I'd know, okay, something's wrong. It's the same with the animals. You watch back home, watch your cows, they will just put a foot forward and graze, put a foot forward and graze. They will not put their foot on a coarse plant. They'll put it next to the plant, because you don't have large packs of wolves and all the predators you had before. So now I hope you understand why I had to come up with the term partial rest. In other words, there are animals on the ground, plants are being grazed, plants are being browsed, but the whole biological community is being subjected to rest. There's no great disturbance. Depending on where you are on that brittleness scale, what the total rainfall is, what the distribution is, depending on that, basically, as a general rule, so there'll be minor exceptions, fringes, but the effect of total rest and partial rest is about the same. So if you're in what we would call a non-brittle environment, but that's jargon to people who are not familiar with our work, humid environment. So if we were in Brazil, talking about this in the Amazon, it's a totally different situation because the bulk of the herbivores are insects. And that's why if you go there, you get panthers and jaguars and things like that. You go to India and the same sort of forests, you start to get leopards, tigers, etc. And you don't find leopards in packs. You don't find jaguars in packs. You don't find tigers in packs because they don't eat insects. There's not enough large prey. So with them, total rest, partial rest, not a problem. It is going to lead to higher biodiversity, etc. Now, if you're doing the same thing around Johannesburg, it'll tend to lead to the opposite, whether it's partial rest or total. And we get the same here. Here, I can tell you that just around this camp, and particularly along this bank here, the woody vegetation, everything is growing. I mean, we've got more grass, more herbs, more forbs, more shrubs, more everything, except these charismatic trees, as I call them. There are about 5 species there, but they're not establishing, basically because of the animals, not because of the cattle so much as the wildlife, because the wildlife is not functioning normally because of railway lines and roads and, persecution of predators and everything else.